Hello everyone, my name is Link from Dimension X, and welcome to Building 101. This is going to be a small series where I just give you some hints and tricks about building, just to make you a little bit better than you already were. Let's get started. Alright, first off we have what I like to consider the basic building blocks, and that is oak wood, oak planks, and either cobblestone or stone bricks. Now you might realize this is what a lot of villages have in Minecraft, and that is true, and it is also a very good starting point. Because with these 4 simple blocks, you can make some really intricate and interesting designs. So starting out very basic is not a bad idea. This is how I started building, and I have just slowly built on from it. But this isn't the only thing you can build, so let's move on to the next thing. Next we have what I like to call the castle building blocks, and that is stone bricks to make castle-like walls, such as this small representation. And all it is these 5 blocks with stone brick walls. Now you could do this just all stone brick, however, you can add a little bit of shading with the new tough bricks, and some variation with moss bricks and cracked stone bricks, and then the chiseled works as an accent block at the top before you get to the actual stone brick walls. I really like castle building styles, but I don't do it all the time. But let's move on to the next bit. Alright, now I know looking at this, it probably doesn't make much sense. This is what I've been using with woods for the past few years. And the reason I use it is to figure out what types of logs go with what types of planks. So I have every type of plank next to every type of log and its stripped variant. And is actually very useful. For example, I can look at spruce. Spruce planks go well with oak logs, it looks like. Go with their own logs. Doesn't really go too well with dark oak, kind of clashes. Actually goes really well with regular mangrove logs. I can just kind of keep going down and see it doesn't really go with any else. And so I can say I'm using this as my main building block. And I don't know which one of these I can use to really go well with it. And the only issue is there are so many logs and wood planks now that it's getting a little difficult to use this. So I have one request. Minecraft, please stop adding just logs. Give us something new to build with. I know I probably am only speaking on behalf of me and probably a few other builders, but we want something new. Please. Let's move on. Now this one doesn't look quite as hectic as the last one, and that has a bit on purpose. That is because this is what I like to call the shadow of stone. This is going from the lightest stone to the darkest stone. And then I kind of done it in a few different areas just to kind of see which ones kind of work well as opposites. And it's actually really interesting seeing how some of them interact. And the stones that I have chosen are right here. It goes from smooth quartz to blackstone, and kind of hover over all of them in the order that I go. You might not agree with this order. You might think that one that I have darker might be a little lighter than the other. For example, these two. I went back and forth like 15 times on which one was darker. But it is very useful just to see what kinds of stones there are and how they look next to each other. But let's go on to the next area. Now we get to sandstone. There are 2 types of sandstone, regular and red. It isn't red. Let's be honest here. It is orange. I don't know why they call it red when it is very obviously orange. I'm sorry, this bothers me a little bit. But you can do some really interesting patterns given the chiseled variants and how they interact with the type of wood for both regular and red, that being birch and acacia respectively. And all this is a very simple type of sandstone on the bottom, same type on the top, with the chiseled in the middle, separated by wood pillars. And I did the same for both, using regular, cut, and smooth. And that is what all these blocks are. It is 5 blocks a piece, but you can make some really interesting designs. I don't really use this too much. I don't typically build in desert or areas like that, but who knows, maybe I will soon. But let's move on. All right. Last for the design styles, but certainly not the least, we have quartz. Now, quartz is what I like to call the best of both worlds when it comes to comparing it to sandstone and wood. You have the pillars, which are kind of like logs, and then you have the chiseled variants, which are like the stones and sandstones. And all this is similar to the sandstone. It's one type on top, same type on bottom, separated by pillars. And you can do some really interesting things. For example, building temples to various gods or goddesses in your worlds or stuff like that. I highly recommend playing around with these a bit and just kind of seeing what you can do. And all it is 5 blocks. 5 blocks and you can make something that is repeatable. It looks really well. And if you want some differentiation, you can toss in some white concrete, maybe get some other blocks in there and just kind of see what you can do. But I'll talk about that stuff personally a little bit later. So let's take a look at a couple of examples I have built for different types of builds. All right, so this is a basic wooden house that I've kind of seen built a lot as starter houses on different series, and it isn't bad. However, it is very, very basic, and when you walk inside, it is all oak inside out, and it doesn't really have much character. Next to it, however, I built the very same size of the house, only did a little few different things. I raised it up 1 block, made the base block and the first block up out of stone bricks, changed the wood of the door, changed the wood of this roof, and even textured it a bit so that way it wasn't just flat. And when you come on the inside, I used another type of log, stripped jungle, and I did a kind of checker pattern of turning them each and every way. Instead of a single row of glass blocks, I did a double glass pane. And for the lighting, I put just a frog light because this frog light kind of matches the birch tones a bit. And doing just a few small things, I went from a very basic, kind of boring look at build to a very interesting and colorful one that catches your eye. But that's just houses. And Minecraft isn't known just for its houses. It's also known for one more thing: the giant castles that people build. So this is typically what I see when I see people building castle walls, and it isn't bad. It's just very bland and basic, and there's not much to it. This is just kind of a cut area of it, one that I've seen, and it's lacking character. So I decided to take this and give it a little bit of character, made it kind of look old, rugged, almost abandoned. I did this by adding some shading with the tuff, moss kind of growing up, along with some cracked in a few areas where it looks like it got worn down. And with the walls on the top, I also added a few mossy ones. And then if we go around the back, you can see the same thing, only I didn't go with the same pattern. Instead of mostly tuff at the bottom, I did a lot more moss, because moss typically grows up from the ground. And then instead of just the normal stone in the middle, I did oak planks. All in all, I didn't do too much with this to make it different. However, I made it different enough that it's interesting to look at, and it's not overly distracting by going, oh, what's that, and looking at 5 different things, as compared to if I were done something like this, where I'd go grab that, grab this, and grab this. So what you could have done is something like this. You could just added a few holes like that, and it doesn't look bad, but makes it more depth to look at when it's supposed to be kind of more of a flat wall. And then if I used cobblestone, the difference between the cobblestone and the brick itself is a little bit too obvious. Now, say this was a huge build going like 25 blocks up and was 100 blocks both directions, maybe you can mix in some cobblestone. But for a smaller one like this, you wouldn't want to. It'll be too distracting to look at when the wall is really supposed to be guarding what is supposed to be interesting to look at, the castle. And I don't have a castle. You know what? I'll make a quick castle for you guys. One moment. I'm going to make a quick castle for this to the block. Alright, so this isn't supposed to be super interesting to look at, but the castle that I built behind it is. Yes, I built a sand castle. It was too funny to pass up. But that's all I really got for you guys today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll enjoy this series as I come out with more episodes. If you have any ideas or questions, don't be afraid to leave them in the comments. While you're down there, please hit the like button, and if you want to, hit the subscribe button so that way you know whenever I got new content. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.